the corner creature. A body stuck to a wall, this monster can be found in corners and dark areas of abandoned homes, although it often speaks to its prey before ultimately killing them. The corner creature has been confirmed killed. It appears that for all its threatening and its history of victims, the monster was not that much of a threat to begin with. We discovered this in a video posted to social media. It showed a group of teenagers crowded around the monster's corpse, poking and mocking it. The post threatened to go viral as the kids were admittedly pretty funny. So when our programs embedded in social media platforms flagged the video, the agency had a chance for a good laugh. The whole thing started when a group of 4 teens, 2 boys and 2 girls, were returning home from a party. They hadn't had a good time and had left early to drop the girls home. One of the boys was filming everything as part of the day-by-day video journal he'd been set as a class project. Just a simple series of videos shot on his cell phone to be uploaded later. The girls' homes weren't far away, so they opted to walk rather than getting a ride from their parents. On the way back, as they were walking through the neighborhood, they heard someone calling for help. It was coming from a nearby house with a for sale sign. The door was open. The voice cried out again, repeating its call for help. The voice was sweet-sounding and seemed to be in genuine distress. One of the girls was about to answer when the last boy in line stopped her. He shouted that sorry, they couldn't help whoever was inside, and, grabbing the girl, started walking quickly away from the house, ignoring the voice that was still crying out for them to help. The girl was surprised, but still allowed the boy to drag her away from the abandoned house. She asked him what he was doing, and he looked at her like she was stupid. "Mysterious voice from the abandoned house, asking for help," he said. And she blushed as she got it. She was about to walk right into that house, just like every blonde, big-eyed teenager from the horror movies. She slapped her head and groaned in embarrassment. "I almost went in there," she squealed, as she increased her pace and was now the one dragging the boy away. The rest of her friends teased her as they quickly left the block the abandoned house was on. But the corner creature wasn't done that night. Soon, they hit another fairly remote area and heard a new voice talking to them. This time, it was the voice of a young boy asking them to play. The group of 4 stopped at this, and the girl bringing up the rear looked around as the voice continued to speak. She had the best hearing of the group and was able to figure out which house the voice was coming from. Like the other house, this one also seemed vacant and displayed a for sale sign. But unlike the other, she could see a figure in one of the windows waving at her. She asked the others to hold on as they were just going to ignore the voice and keep walking. They stopped, watching curiously as she looked around, searching for something on the ground nearby. Then, in a quick movement, she bent and picked up a brick, tossing it hard at the waving figure. The window shattered and the group heard the thunk of the brick making contact with the figure. Alarms went off and the group of 4 ran off laughing as the boy's voice started cursing at them. You see, the corner creature is bound to the corners of the place it can move to. There has never been a record of it actually venturing outside or of even being seen outside of a corner. It seems that this restriction on its behaviour hasn't been noticed in the past, as prior victims have been hospitalised or under the influence, or just unfortunate enough to be in the wrong place at the wrong time. And in some cases, lacking the common sense displayed by the 4 teenagers who were mocking it. Those foolish enough to follow its voice into its hunting ground are inevitably killed, feeding the beast. The main reason it hasn't been captured by our field agents is that the corner creature is cowardly in nature. It has a keen sense for danger and uses its primary ability, that of moving from abandoned house to abandoned house, to flee. But hunger must have driven it to continue pursuing, and the teenagers before it seemed like many of its previous victims, easy pickings. So it didn't consider them a threat, even as one of them hit it with a well-aimed brick. The teenagers continued on their way home, curious about what the monster, which was obviously following them, would try next. Their curiosity was answered soon enough when another voice called out to them from a nearby warehouse. It sounded like a relative of the boy who was recording the events on his phone. To be exact, it sounded like his older sister, who had left for college the previous year. It called to him sweetly to come into the building so they could catch up. The boy exchanged a look with his friends as if to ask them with his eyes one simple question. Really? A quick text message to his sister confirmed what he already knew. She was a state away, studying for a test. By this point, everyone was becoming annoyed with the creature and wanted it to stop following them. So, ignoring for the third time the voice calling to them, the group came up with a plan. The teens made a quick stop at a nearby corner store, one that they had visited many times in the past, mainly to stock up on illegal fireworks that the owner kept hidden under the counter. You see, the corner creature had chosen a bad spot to hang out. That warehouse had been used by neighborhood kids for years for parties, blowing up stuff, and general destruction. The adults had long since given up trying to get them to stop. They were just happy that it was more or less contained to a single area, and the warehouse itself was made of solid concrete. It had been set ablaze many times and was still standing. So the party of four loaded up with what they could afford and get their hands on quickly. A shovel, a few gallons of gasoline, and a bunch of sparklers and some bottle rockets. They also added some rope that the shady store owner was selling. Then, they made their way back to the warehouse in question, where the corner creature was still trying to lure them inside. It had switched to another voice, one that was instantly recognized by the boy who had first pulled back the creature's first potential victim. To the creature's shock, the boy agreed to help them and walked towards the entrance to the warehouse. If this was any other group, the boy would have been snatched by the creature's impossibly long arms, beaten and eaten alive. But the moment the creature reached out to grab the boy, he struck with the taser he had borrowed from one of the girls. This was no toy, and had the police caught her with it, there would have been some very serious questions asked about how she got her hands on it in the first place. The shock was enough to heavily stun the creature. When it hit the deck, barely conscious, the teens quickly wrapped ropes around its extended arms and, with the strength of four almost grown adults, proceeded to drag it outside. In its current condition, the creature was in no position to offer much resistance and was pulled out of the abandoned warehouse and out into the open. It was hissing and begging the whole time, but the teens ignored its protests. The moment its long, insect-like body left the warehouse, it went completely limp. The corner creature had no corners, no place to hide its pale visage. Complete exposure sent its mind reeling. It should have run when it had the chance, because what happened next, if inflicted upon a human being rather than a predatory monster, is messed up by anyone's standard. But this was a murderous creature with a kill count in the double digits. What came next was well-deserved, because the teenagers doused the corner creature in gasoline and used the fireworks to set off a nighttime display. The fireworks were pretty by themselves, and the corner creature, when it burned, somehow made the flames purple. All of it caught on camera because they never stopped recording. After they were sure the corner creature was burned to a crisp, they used the shovel to bash and chop its remains until it was broken up into pieces. Then they went home for a well-deserved rest. The teenagers in question were contacted and made to sign NDAs to keep the truth secret. Unbeknownst to them, they were also put on the list for future recruitment as agents. In return, they were allowed to post the video as an independent film project. As expected, the video went viral and the teens were able to claim a lot of likes and follows, and the agency was able to close the file on the corner creature for good. Except for movie nights, because again, that video is hilarious.